If you can go back in time and discuss your earliest memories as a child growing up, where were you raised, and help us understand the setting of what was it like when you were raised there?
I was born at a place called Rhodesdale. It's a rural setting. Although my dad, it's about it's called a Mnyati power station, but it wasn't at the power station itself. It was about 4 or 5 k's away from the power station along the Harare Bulawayo Road. But of course, that's where I was born, and I grew up there. At that point, my father was, the year I was born, I think, was working at a place called Electricity Supply Commission. He was a clerk, stores clerk. And then there was a development which occurred where the blacks, or the indigenous people in the area there was a lot of resettlement called Rosedale, were being removed from that land, because that was to make way for the white farmers because of the Land Apportionment Act, which had come into force. And they were removed to very inhospitable areas which had not been inhabited before by human beings, full of wild animals. And there were no facilities, there were no schools, no clinics. But my dad, who was working and had accommodation in Kwekwe, Zamarin, I was about 11 years old, refused to relocate to those remote area called Kokwe and Ghana, which were infested with tsetse flies. Very inhospitable, as I say, both for animals and for humans. So he was interested in having his children go to school and enjoy a reasonable life. He had heard stories about how the people who had been transferred earlier lost their stock, their livestock, and even their lives. They were wild animals, hyenas and elephants and all sorts of dangers, which is why he declined. So he sold up all the cattle that he had, and goats and agricultural implements, and we went and settled in Kwekwe. My grandmother, that's my dad's mother, was not very amused because she had no other life, and she didn't want to go and live in compounds. But for our sake, my dad decided to do that, and I'm pleased he did that, because we all managed to go to school and got reasonable training in various professions. All my sisters or brother, all other members of my family went into the teaching profession, but I decided otherwise and did something different. But yes, that's how I was brought up, and I got a little bit of the memories of rural living, but the majority of the years, my earlier years were spent in Kwekwe. Went to primary school there. Actually, it was St. Martin's, it's a mission school. And then we were the pioneers. The government decided to then build schools it was a new school. And we liked it very much. Everything was new. The furniture was new. And it was lovely. It was a prestigious place to go to. And until then, my secondary education was at Fletcher High School, which was a boys' school. Again, it was a government school. We were not pioneers as such, but we were very much behind. It was only 2 years old. We went. The pioneers went the year before we went to that school ourselves. But it was a good government school with good facilities and good training, I think, being a boys' school.
So you speak of your father. You spoke of your father and the decisions that your father made. What of your mother? What do you recall your early memories of your mother?
Very strict person. We had to assist in all the chores in the home. It was fortuitous because some of this training we got even before we started going to school. But more so, we got a bit of training also at school as well as at home. Like gardening, we had to make vegetable gardens to supplement the food. We were having to buy, but instead of buying vegetables, you just get to the garden and you grow your vegetables, tomatoes, carrots. And it was a lovely experience. Something which perhaps you carry on doing even after you've left your home, and you practice that kind of extramural activity. At school, I also was interested in handwork, like carpentry. We got some training there, and I'm still very well. I couldn't make an item like perhaps even doing a chair or a stool, but I can repair something which has already been made, which is a good skill. Skills for life.
What are some lessons that, in reflection of your mother and father separately, what are some reflections that, or some lessons that you learned from them, or wisdom that you still hold near and dear today?
My mother had certain sayings, like if you sleep, you can sleep all day if you want, but you're not going to reap anything from that sleep. You can't say, well, I've slept for so many hours, so I'll go and put my sleep in the granary and I will use it at some futures. It's a useless. It doesn't pay you anything to sleep. All she was trying to say that the other saying which she used to tell us about, when a child is born, they're usually putting their fingers in the mouth, signifying that whatever you eat is from your hands. So you go to work, you got to use your hands to earn a living, and that was and we used to go out in the fields and purchase and cultivate patches of land, grow some mealies and whatever else, which normally you wouldn't grow in towns.
So that was sage wisdom from your mother. What about from your father?
My father was also, in a way, would say, wise. The fact that he made that bold decision to give up going to Kana and Gokwe, and then coming because of our sake, for our schooling and our health. He had a bit of training as an orderly, so he knew quite a few. I think he worked at a clinic, medicines which he would buy home. I mean, he would bring home. If you got a stomach ache, you bring Andrew's liver salt to settle your stomach, or castor oil, or those some basic medicines. Bandages, we knew them at home before we started learning about some of these basic medicines at school. In that regard, he was. He also made certain decisions which were quite. Having worked and lived at one place, he worked for at the ESC for 25 years. In fact, he retired at 60. 65, I think. I don't know, quite know exactly. No, at 60, which was the retirement age. And he didn't then want to go back into the rural areas proper, where there were no toilets, where you'd have to be using bush toilets. He said you can do that after having lived in waterborne sewage systems, and he couldn't go and fetch water at a river which had bilharzia and such things. So he did quite a bit of research and chose to go and live in what is called a peri-urban area. These were serviced stands where there's water now, or this came later on, but that is after he decided to go and settle at that particular spot in Subamini. It's a dam, and there's an irrigation scheme, but there's water in the homestead and there's electricity, and we're grateful for that. And he also, because of his vision, thought we were two brothers, should also have stands next to him. And so we have 3 adjacent stands, one for my brother who is late now, and one for myself, and one for himself, although both my parents are deceased now. But we're glad he had that vision to enable us to enjoy not town life as such, because it gets to a point, if your working life has come to an end, you want to settle in a more less, there's no hustle and bustle in the area. It's peri-urban, it's not rural, and there are clinics available, and you can also actually, it's only 30 k's away from Gweru, and it's less than an hour's drive. It's about 35-40 minutes drive, and you'll be able to access a lot of other services which people in the rural areas do not access. Medical services will be available, even at the point of having doctors and hospitals.
If you had 30 seconds to spend time with your mother at the age that you are now, what would you tell her?
I would thank you. I would thank you so much for having pointed me in the right direction. Yes, there were instances where I thought she was being unkind. I would have wanted to go out and play with mates until late at night. She wouldn't have none of that. I'm glad she insisted that Sundays we would go to school, into church. I'm glad because she taught me how to pray. And my dad was also a member of the Anglican Church, and there's a lot of things which, when I left school and after schooling, and I went to my first job, which was away from home, he insisted. Fortunately, for him, he was a well-known member. It's more than 30. A member of the Anglican Church, and he used to attend synods, and he knew quite a lot of priests, having gone to St. Augustine's secondary school for his schooling. So he could even phone, ask who my priest was, and you couldn't lie because he'd make inquiries and he'd find you out. So yes, I did follow that advice. Find a church and go to church. Stay close. Don't separate yourself from church.
The same question in regards to your father. If you had 30 seconds to spend with him, what is it that you would tell him?
He's a great dad. He's a great dad. He had vision, and I would thank him for that and pointing us in the right direction. I think all my brothers and sisters would say the same about him.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.